day, we decided to exclude Korea from the
I
pricing
remember
average,
that.
and it caused a whole
That was a big problem.
market to crash, and then we were blamed for intentionally doing that when we're just trying to get.
I think that you were like the allegation was CoinMarketCap cut them off because they were wash trading too much or they didn't count anymore. And
the price is higher just because people in Korea want Bitcoin more than other places, and so the price is just higher. And so it was a decision that we maybe could have done better, but at the same time, I don't know how to do it, have executed it better. We didn't let people know ahead of time. We just randomly did it.
So we're here with Mau Ledford.
That's right.
Mau Ledford, the legendary man who was behind CoinMarketCap. He is a Korean American, and I'm an American in Korea. And we all happen to be in Hong Kong today for Consensus, where we're going to be talking about AI image generation, namely about Sogni AI, right?
That's right. DeepIn, even AI agent stuff we're doing is pretty cool. And to extend on that, I'm not the OG of CoinMarketCap. I was the first CTO from 2017 to 1920. But a lot of interesting stories back then as well.
Happy to have you here with us. This is our second podcast for sweptmedia. Obviously an honor to have you talk about AI and all the lessons that you've learned from starting that and everything there since, when did you get started? 2017?
2017, yeah.
Just like me. But yeah, it was always happy to have you around, and I guess we can pop on some cigars and talk AI.
Yeah, we're here in Hong Kong, a cool cigar lounge.
Bertie HK, that's
right.
The name.
Nice leather couches here.
Really cool
ambiance.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, Ryan.
So tell us about Sogni. What main challenges are you trying to tackle with Sogni?
That's a great question. And so Sogni is a purpose-built DeepIn protocol for creative AI. And what we saw around 2 years ago was there's this whole human renaissance for AI right now. Everyone's productivity is increasing, but we're all increasingly forced to use these proprietary AI models, paying $20 to $30 a month. And whether it's ChatGPT, Midjourney, and these other tools that are really increasingly moderating you, censoring you, and many are training on your data. So we saw the other side of this is the open source world. Like the reality, I think we're finding, especially with the release of DeepSeek, is that whether LLMs or even Stable Diffusion image gen models, they're only 3 to 6 months behind the closed source stuff. But the issue is that stuff is hard to use. You got to kind of be a coder to set it up. If it breaks, you're limited. You got to be a coder to fix it, and the UI UX experience is not that good. And lastly, you're limited to your own GPU power. So the cool backstory is we wanted to solve all that, and it started with the former head of iOS, Alejandro. He built the original version of Sogni that is in the App Store, and it solved all those problems except for the GPU compute power. So when I started checking it out and working with him, I said, what if I can connect all my Macs to all your Macs and we can render together? Mm-hmm. And it worked out so beautifully that we just started naturally growing the team from there, from 2 people to 4. And now a year and a half later, we're up to like 13 people.
Great. Yeah. Pooling the data, or rather pooling the compute power, is probably a really interesting way of tackling that big bottleneck of compute, because I've been talking to a lot of AI people, especially today around Consensus, who they all say the biggest issue is compute, that you just don't have enough GPUs. But if you're able to decentralize that successfully and reduce the cost for those GPUs to the end user, you've tackled a pretty big issue then.
Exactly. And it's interesting because a lot of the first questions we get is like, oh, how can you compete against existing players like Midjourney, where we see Midjourney and these other chat-based tools as like novel roulette wheels of image gen. Look at this cool dog I made or whatever, but is it really yours? We're trying to build advanced tools that are easy to use for the masses, that are have a freemium model, meaning you can download our software, use it for local render, solve all your problems. but the accelerated compute layer is going to be pennies on the dollar, no monthly fees, which is another big aspect of it. And we have advanced stuff like face and pose capture, these control nets that can do so much cool stuff with your ideas and visions that you can't do with like basic tools like OpenAI Dolly or Midjourney.
Yeah. I've been toying around with Sogni quite a bit. I actually really like using it. I like that the on the sidebar, the on the left sidebar, the way that you can prompt it, like with very, very specific prompts, and even minute filters, it makes the generation more accurate. Like there's not as many hallucinations, although there are hallucinations. If there isn't any bias that I can see, and I was actually going to ask you about what you thought about, Google had their image generation thing, and you asked, you could prompt it, show me a picture of the founding fathers of America, and they're all like black men or women or something. Like, that doesn't seem right. Like, well, what do you think about that, and how can that be solved?
I think it's interesting because a lot of people are calling our tech like unwoke, and I prefer the term it's just more accurate. Um, but what's interesting is we don't train the models ourselves. There is an amazing sea of open source models released on GitHub and Hugging Face, and part of the problem that we're solving is people are putting their blood, sweat, and tears to train these models over hundreds of thousands of images and tagging them. We support over 150 different models, and really, it's up to the model whether it understands the founding fathers of the U.S. or certain meme characters. Um, we find more than not, like it can do that. But there's different tiers of models. The newest Stable Diffusion XL models and Flux. Flux is the king. And it's really fascinating because people ask us like, what if I want to do my own character and stuff? And we have model training, specifically LoRa's, which are like mini models you can stack on existing ones. Where this whole roadmap we have later this year with model training and video is going to make it even cooler. But really, when people ask, can we prompt this, or can we prompt in Chinese? It really depends on whether the model was trained on that data, which is pretty interesting. And the other thing I didn't mention is that our audiences are really threefold. One is the artists and aspiring creatives that suddenly have all that capability to generate, 16 images at a time in 5 seconds. Like even a brand new MacBook can generate about one image per minute. So 16 images would be like 16 minutes compared to 5 seconds. But we're also going after builders because we have the SDK. So imagine you're building an indie game with a dynamically created dungeon crawler, and every experience is unique because the graphics, the walls and stuff are automatically generated. And we can do that. We have Telegram bots and Discord bot generating stickers for you. But lastly is the GPU power. Like the big thing is when you download our software, you can but don't have to also give power to render on other people's behalf. And you can do that both with M level Macs or NVIDIA machines and start earning revenue. So I like the idea that when you use our accelerated render layer, not only is it blazingly fast, and you're paying pennies on a dollar, but the money you spend is going to normal people like you and me, not Google Cloud, Amazon Cloud, and these billion-dollar companies.
Hmm. Yeah, there's a good monetization aspect there, both for you and for users. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but I wanted to talk more about the data. How is Sogni efficiently collecting data from other users' inputs and their prompts in order to train the models within Sogni, like within that platform? I'm really curious about how that works on a decentralized level because that means you're collecting prompts and inputs from all around the world. Geolocation is irrelevant as long as people are tapping in. And then the generation gets better over time. How does the training method determine when an image has been generated correctly and when it has not? Because I didn't see anything about like thumbs up, thumbs down, no impressions about how the system can determine what from a prompt, what image was done well, accurately, and which image was not.
Yeah, so we will have uploading and downloading for um, because your work, like say you're doing, we can do up to 512 renders at once. So your work gets sent to 512 different people to do the work. And we have a lot of stuff in place, including a reputation scoring on speed and accuracy. So if someone renders your work and you know that this, like out of the 512, one of them is just a black image or some other stuff, you can eventually report that. And that person, the worse their reputation score is, the worker, the less likely that they'll do work for others, right? So it incentivizes people to do great work. Like that's the best kind of use case is when the way to make the most money is just do the right thing, right? But in terms of actual data analytics, we do not track anything as much as we can, almost to a crippling level, because we know how many users we have, we know the daily active users, but we don't collect or even aggregate the prompts that are being sent. What you send to us goes directly to the models to run the inference on, gets sent back to you, and then it's removed. In fact, we are working on a system where we're even encrypting your prompts, and the only person that gets to decrypt it is the person doing the inference job. You know what I mean? So in that case, we aren't training on your data, but there are many cases where you can do great work by learning from others. And what we do in that case, we're trying to introduce large language models to be able to prompt enhance, right? Especially like we could have done it. We had versions of this early using like Claude and ChatGPT, but we didn't want to introduce like centralization and also the fact that they are potentially logging your data. But now when DeepSeek got released, it's incredible because you have something that has the power and in many cases is better than ChatGPT o1 and other models, but it's completely open source. The question is like who will run that? And right now we are using Venice AI to do some of the DeepSeek work only when people want. They can hit the prompt enhancer button. So this isn't out yet, but it's probably coming out this week for Mac, iOS, and for our app.
So you're integrating Venice, Venice's LLM.
Yeah,
Interesting. And that one we know is privacy based on Morpheus. Like they're not going to be tracking any of your data.
exactly.
Only the
Yeah. So we
inputs.
only support people that follow the same vision as us, and so far it's them, which is pretty cool.
What did you think about the whole DeepSeek issue with the hack right after they launched their V3, what is essentially their V3? Then they get hacked and we find out that everyone's login credentials were taken and things like that.
So I messed around with DeepSeek's service, which is free and also paid, but I would never trust my data to a centralized service. And so I've only tried running my own copies of DeepSeek. I would use the distilled models, which are a lot smaller. I was trying to go as big as I can to the 70 billion parameter models at home on my Mac Studios and other devices. But even them, the hallucination and stuff is for me worse enough where it probably isn't good for general use case. You want the full R1,
Yeah.
700 plus billion models. And to do that, you need at least like a $6,000 machine. And you need many of them if you want to service
Yeah.
others. And that's why we use Venice AI's API to do that stuff. Like that is the answer for us because it's fast. It's not super fast, but it's fast enough. Especially these thinking models, they need like 4, 8, 12 seconds to come with a response. So it's kind of interesting.
Is there are decentralized models and private models like Venice and yours, are they on a trajectory to catch up to the performance of something like a DeepSeek or an OpenAI? Because right now, I think people, for the most part, don't care so much. These days, people are aware that their data is being tracked, their IPs, their login credentials. You log in with your Gmail, that may expose your Gmail to other vulnerabilities. But people are kind of accepting of it just because of the ease of use.
Yeah.
Is if with on something like a Sogni, you don't need to have a login. Presumably, you will be able to log in with your wallet, and that streamlines things quite a bit.
Yeah.
Same with Venice. You don't need to have any login at all. You can use it no login on an in private browser. That ease of use is tremendous, but it's slower. The performance isn't quite as good. So basically, how long do you think it will take decentralized models and private models to catch up, if ever?
I think
Is it on a trajectory?
I think it's a trajectory. I think every 3 to 6 months, the open source models like catch up to the closed source ones. Like it's really fascinating to me, and this applies to both large language models and the stable diffusion style image and video gen. Um, it's really fascinating because even like 2 years ago when we were doing the alpha versions of this stuff, AI image gen in general, like it didn't do hands so well. And then suddenly now it can do hands perfectly fine. And
Yeah.
then it couldn't do text inside of images very well. Like the text was always garbled characters. But now it does that pretty well. It's not amazing, but I would say if you do like 16 renders of someone holding a sign that says something to a couple words, like 80% of the renders will have the correct word in there. So imagine a year or two from now, those won't even be a question whether it can do it or not. So I would say 3 to 6 months time frame, open source literally does catch up. And these private companies are raising hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, and they're just 3 to 6 months ahead.
Yeah.
So the scary part for me is like I still use ChatGPT Pro Plan for a lot of stuff. I still use Claude, but when I have ChatGPT, for example, generate an image of my living room, and it gets things pretty spot on, even though I never told it just gleaned this from all the previous conversations. The only thing it got wrong was it put like two French bulldogs when I only have one. You know what I mean? So the fact that it knows that much data
Uh-huh.
is scary when you apply machine learning. And what if ChatGPT, which is in the process of going closed source now, like what if they do a deal with someone to do ads? Now you don't know if the advice it's giving is the best or the ones that it was like paid to give. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And look at Humane Pin. Like Humane Pin, they are going to get acquired by HP, and within I think a month or two, anybody that bought that pin for AI is now a brick essentially, and that's the problem when you are tied to these closed systems. Like I said, the downside of open source is you got to find someone to run these models for you because generally they can't fit on a single machine. But with DPIN, you can do that in a decentralized way where we have as less information as you as possible. And you're right, with Sogni, we don't require you have an email. You just set up a username and a password, and we generate your private key from that, which
Mhm.
is pretty cool.
I really like the in-app wallet for Sogni. Makes me think, are you guys building an L1?
I don't think so, just because there's so many great L1s or L2s out there, and a lot of projects do eventually move to their L1s just because the the use case there of using your own token for burning gas and stuff is very lucrative. But I think our main bread and butter it's with image and eventually video gen and model creation. And we find that when a project does too many things, that's when everything kind of gets mediocre. So I'm not saying we will never launch an L1, but it's right now it's not in our roadmap just because we have a good roadmap for the next year or two, and it's just so much. Our bottom line is how much productivity and how much joy can we spark from the products that we build. And moving things to L1 for us is not going to move that arrow in terms of the enjoyment and productivity of our users.
Mhm. Did you guys want some whiskey? We can have some bourbon. Okay. Did anyone else say that they were on their way to here? Oh, they're out there now. Okay.
Oh, it's good.
It is good. I considered sitting outside,
Yeah,
but then there's so much noise
yeah.
from the street. Like, I don't know if that would work too much. You said you have 150 models. I counted 60 on the front end.
I think
53 or something?
Yeah, I think when you combine the different levels of models, plus I think every like 6 to 12 months, like one of my favorite models is Chroma XL, and they'll release like I think they're on their seventh or eighth version now, but we still support one or two versions previous,
Oh, okay.
and so yeah, the 150 factors in the different versions of the models, and sometimes people like an older model because they went into a different direction with
Yeah.
the later model. So that's including all the different versions and quantizations and stuff.
Aside from the privacy aspect of it, which I think is pretty inherent, what makes the decentralized models, either in AI or in Web3 in general, what makes those better than the centralized ones? For example, what makes potentially what Sagni is building better than what DeepSeek has done or what OpenAI has done with ChatGPT.
I think the biggest two purposes of what we're building is the first is like the speed and performance. Like it's interesting because I still keep my mid journey plan just to check in on how they're doing, and even to the years later, their max speed is essentially like 4 images per minute. So you're
Yeah.
prompting, and a minute later it spits out 4 images. And to ideate on something, I think it really takes a lot of time. And so we can do right now, we can do more than this, but we set the default um, is 16 in under 5 seconds. So you can ideate on
Yeah.
images so fast. And we find that generative AI, because it has a random aspect to it, the faster you can ideate, like we even support doing 512 images at near real time. It probably takes like 1 or 2 minutes to really finish all the images, but by the time you review a couple of images, you've got all 512. And and then you can use text to image and image to image at the same time. So once get your image that you like the most, you can drag that into the guide window, decide how close you want it to be, adjust your prompts. And by doing that for, 10, 15 minutes, you're almost like a movie director. You're thinking about the set, the setting, the focus, the texture, the emotion.
Yeah.
And in the end, you really feel like this is something I created with the help of AI. It wasn't just an AI image generated image.
That brings up a good point because both OpenAI and DeepSeek are saying in court that their models generated the outputs, so they own the outputs. They own the inputs because you put the data in freely, and with that they generated the output. So that's all theirs.
Yeah, everything you generate is yours, especially because we only support straight up open source models that are on GitHub with permissive licensing. So we don't right now support private models. In the future, we may offer to support those private models so that you can use them and they can charge their own fees. We want to be uh, a project for everyone for every use case. And sometimes when people want access to certain models that are cutting edge, we'll offer that. But we want to be the most permissive, like freedom oriented project with as little limits as possible. I think it's important to have some limits, but we will also eventually move to a DAO model, which we've started, so that when we do have to enforce rules universally, it's not going to come from us as the founding team, but the DAO that everyone agreed and voted on, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Um, so I asked you about whether Sogni would be an L1, but you answered that maybe, maybe not. We'll see. You have a good roadmap, very cryptic answer. I think you're keeping something close to your chest there, but that's okay. I won't press that one. But is there a long-term goal to target both retail and enterprise? Because that seems like that could be a good way for Sogni to monetize. Like, seems like retail can appreciate the tokenomics and the interactive nature, and enterprise would see a need for custom, powerful packages. Like that's what I see on the enterprise side. They're not interested in what it can do. They're interested in what it can do for them. That's where you
Exactly.
have to
Yeah.
package it for them. So like I'm trying to figure out how you're going to make money via deal flow with Sogni.
Yeah, what's interesting is like when people ask us like, oh, how can you compete with Midjourney, $1 billion company? And we point to websites like Civet AI. Civet AI is a very popular website for Gen AI artists to showcase their work, look at the latest models, and they have a kind of a simple feature there to do some image gen straight on their website, and they have a transparency report they do every year, and they do, I think it was in the order of like 6 million or it was 60 million. I don't remember the specific number, but basically it when we get to that number of accelerated renders, it would be about 3 million in revenue, and that is just the niche website. It's not like they probably do 1% of or less of the traffic of a site like Midjourney.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, the TAM on our project, the total addressable market, it's huge. It's like graphic designers, um, fashion designers, even like a stay-at-home mom that's working on a children's storybook, like people who have like Dungeons and Dragon groups that want to build worlds, indie game developers. Anybody can use our project, and benefit from that, especially with our SDK. And so what we've done is we've actually open sourced a lot of stuff. Like we have Telegram and Discord sticker bots that are able to use our SDK to generate images and use AI to remove the background and create the proper stickers for your community. So we have a lot of B2B stuff. We even have the Sogni SDK plugin for Eliza. Eliza is like one of the top AI agent on GitHub. I think it was the most starred repo in history in terms of how fast it went up there in all of Web 2 and Web 3. So right now, people are using Eliza for like Telegram, Discord, Twitter agents, but they're just using probably like Dolly, to generate an image, and it can't do a lot of stuff. You want Donald Trump in tutu or something, you can't do a lot of stuff. But with our stuff, not only do you have less of this babysitting, but you have access to, like I said, over 100 different models. Some are just trained on manga and anime or photorealism, 35 millimeter film. So you can really get the look and feel that you're going after.
But what are enterprises looking for in something like that, if you're targeting that?
Yeah, so I'll give you other use cases where we're partnering with a number of L1s like Somnia Chain, Zignali, where they want to use our SDK as primitives on their platform. So for example, if someone wants to build the next pump.fun style token creator, it'll read your summaries of the token and be able to generate the banner and the logo, right? So they're just using our SDK to do that. Another big thing is we've built like 2 or 3 10K NFT collections for a project. If you look up BitBetX, they're a project on Bear Chain. We did an amazing bear collection for them. 10 different themes of 1,000 bears each. And that was more of a hand-holding process from our team to help them generate the guide images and the look and feel. But in the future, we want to be able to have people generate using an app like NFT Art Creator, 10K collection, no code. You just either drag into your mascot or build one right in the app, and then generate 10 different themes. And to generate 10,000 images, it's no small feat. That's 10 gigabytes worth of images.
Yeah.
But we'll be able to do that for you. And in our Sogni SuperNet, we charge about $50 for 10,000 images, or the relaxed tier, which is our max tier, it's only about $25. So I'll give you an example. Like some of our investors in our previous round was like CoinGecko Ventures, DexTools Ventures, and others, or even our partnership with Somnia Chain, Zignali. They can build an NFT art creator, white label to them, charge whatever they want on top, $250 for a 10K NFT collection. Behind the scenes, they just pay us our $50 in Sogni to do the renders, and they're benefiting, their users are benefiting, and everyone benefits. So a lot of B2B players with our API and SDK.
Got it. Hi. Not a big
So
deal.
this is Bourgeois. He is in Nosana, and Nosana is a GPU cloud on Solana. They are powering a good third of our GPU network.
Interesting.
Yeah, they're really good guys out of Amsterdam, and they also help invest in our previous round, because it's interesting because the GPU cloud providers, there's a couple of them. I think Nosana is one of the best. We met them.
Of course, yes.
We met them through their GitHub. We met them through another source, but their GitHub validated to us how real and functional their stuff is. A lot of these deep-in cloud providers, they're a lot more marketing than actual code, and so that's why we wanted to partner with them. And I think it's a good match because the GPU providers, they have a product and an API, but they don't have a face. So a lot of times we help provide those tools that they can use or their users can use. This is what is it?
Russell's 10-year. I thought I ordered the Wild Turkey 10-year, but
we did actually order the
sorry.
Interesting. It's still a Kentucky bourbon.
Yeah.
So cheers.
Another country?
Yes, another country. We got to do a karaoke. Every country we go together, we do karaoke.
I remember you did karaoke at KBW.
Yeah.
Was that KBW?
Yeah.
I wasn't there. It was like last minute. You were trying to put something together.
Yeah.
I tried to help you find one, and my wife caught me looking for norebang. And she's like, what are you doing looking for norebang? You're going to go buy yourself in a soul. I'm like, okay, never mind. Not going to go.
Funny. Well, we need to arrange one if we can, this trip. It'll be fun.
That's the tradition at this point.
Yeah. I think we've done 4 countries together or something. Like it was Korea, Japan, Tokyo,
Most people in
Singapore.
love with Taylor.
Yeah,
Like,
Of course, they have the best karaoke.
anything, not a really nice place.
Oh yeah, this place
chill.
is nice. Shout out to Bertie HK Cigar Shop. Got to put that in there. The guy said he was going to tell his boss that, that we're doing this. Maybe I'll keep these little interludes in here, and I'll put like across the screen. I'll put Sogni generated images of
Yeah.
like what
We
this
can help
place looked
generate
like.
some cool stuff
Yeah.
too.
Oh, and I'll have to use Sogni to make the featured image for this as well.
Yeah. We can do some really cool like visuals. I create GIFs, I stitch them together. We're gonna open source that software to do stitching because my goal is for you to be able to create animations and other cool stuff without Photoshop and these other
Oh,
tools. Just
animations
stuff.
too.
Yeah, yeah. We can stitch GIFs together or images.
Maybe Sogni should we should partner up and all the featured images on all the articles that I do and
Sure.
everything should be Sogni
Yeah.
generated.
And we'll give you credits where you can like really I think like generating like 64 images at a time so you can like zoom in on the ones you
Oh,
like.
yeah.
That's what it's about, speed.
Dude, I was generating images all last night, man. Like I
Yeah.
know how fast it is. It was going faster than like I could
Yeah,
think
then
of
you
the,
can yeah, then
the
you can
next
see.
thing.
So we have this cool feature coming out. Not only the prompt enhancer, but the facet this facet tool where you can do a good prompt, but you're like, okay, so you made an anime girl holding a sign. Well, like, can I change the color? I just want to iterate on 32 different hair colors. So you can just facet on that and then generate that. So it'll randomize whatever facet you want, the background, this artistic style, and stuff like that.
What about like image enhancements where let's say I use my ArcPFP
Yeah,
as an input and
yeah.
I say put my guy on the beach sitting on under a umbrella or something.
Yeah, you can. You can. And so our YouTube channel, sogni.ai on YouTube, we have really in-depth videos on how to do stuff like that. We got our video guy, Josh Cross, he's incredible. He's going to be doing, those are all long form, but he's going to do short form ones for TikTok and all the other kind of shorter video services.
Nice. Yeah, man, grab a cigar.
Yeah.
I sent you a picture of the one we have if you want to show
Yeah.
it to them.
What's the next question?
You can even do Nosana sometimes. They're good. They're good. Yeah.
We got the good guys. So.
Yeah.
My next question was going to be about competition because there's
Yeah.
a lot of little AI companies popping up
Yeah,
left and right
yeah.
now. Like who are you genuinely looking at like, okay, I can use them as a benchmark or we should be careful of them or the people who you see are Sogni's peers right now. I'm not talking about the OpenAIs or even Anthropic or
Yeah.
any of them because they're a totally different league right now anyway. Who is Sogni competing with in the decentralized image generation field?
What's interesting is there are one or two players in the space, but I think they're handling things a lot differently than us. They're just trying to build on-chain versions of Midjourney, and they're either getting their own like little compute clouds, but they aren't offering something that's dramatically different. Maybe they're offering less censorship, but they're not offering better, tools. They're not offering faster tools. So we don't really see them as competition. We almost feel like we're building a new category, even new metric. Like it's not just about speed of AI, but it's about parallelization. Like in order for you to generate like 16 or 32 images at once, you would have to go to Akash or IONET or salad.com and you'd have to provision 16 NVIDIA boxes. You'd have to pay those hourly or daily, and it's a lot of coding and a lot of work. So there's nothing quite like us that enables you to do like 512 images at once. So in that sense, we don't have a clear competitor. We have competitors across the three verticals that we're in. The apps, like Wasogni Studio competitors, the SDK and API, the whole DeepIn network, which includes the GPU workers. The really interesting thing is like each one of these we've architected in a specific way where I think we can really succeed. Like the GPU workers, for example, in testnet, you can mint the NFT for free. The NFT represents your license to operate. It also represents your reputation. So the more work you do, the without errors and with good speeds, timings, the higher your reputation is, the more work you can get. In testnet, this is free to mint, but in mainnet, it's about $300 worth of ETH to buy, and we only have a limited version, like 100 or 200 that we launch with. And after that, there's no more. You have to wait for us to mint more. And the idea is that when we reach 25% capacity across all of our network, we mint out another 50 or 100 NFTs. And we've analyzed like the 7 or 8 GPU cloud providers out there, both in Web 2 and Web 3, and they can pay up to $220 a month per NVIDIA RTX 4090. That's the top consumer card. But if you look at these Reddit communities, 3 out of every 4 posts is like, how come I only made $7 today, or even 7 cents?
Yeah.
And the reality is there's just too many GPU workers. They have no gate. With us, once you manage to get an NFT, we're gonna funnel all our traffic to you. So you can make up to $350 a month in our network.
By
And
sharing compute.
yeah, and we don't want to overwhelm your machine by running at 100%. So after the average is 25% across all machines, we mint out more, right? The system is actually a lot similar to Singapore's car licenses. They're called COEs. They limit the number of traffic on the road. While we don't have traffic jams in Singapore, it's pretty fascinating. But I think it's a good model where we can guarantee the GPUs make the most money out of any other network. And that's also why other GPU providers want to work with us as well, because we provide them a place where they can earn more.
So the bottleneck again is the compute power. And
Yeah.
this is essentially what you're mostly competing with then, at least in the Web3 side of things. Like Eliza, they don't worry about compute at all. I was talking with them and they're saying compute isn't an issue because that's on the user side.
Yeah.
We're providing the framework where
Yeah.
people can deploy and configure their agent to do whatever they want it to do, but the data and the compute is on them. And ironically, those are the most expensive parts.
Yeah. So they're putting the problem onto the user, but what the user can do is using our Eliza plugin, it just needs a Sogni username and password, and then their users interfacing with their version of Eliza is just pulling from their credits from us. And we charge roughly half a penny per render for the accelerated tier. So it's really not costing them much. If you're a small to medium startup, you're gonna not spend a whole lot, but you're gonna gain so much potential by using us.
I want to show you this picture that I saw of the usage over time of these LLM models.
Interesting.
So Anthropic has doubled in usage while OpenAI has dropped by like 40% in just a year.
It's interesting because I use almost all of these services, and for content writing and just sounding like a normal person, Anthropic is just really good. Like it's better than O1, ChatGPT. But for coding, especially large code bases, ChatGPT Pro, like O1 Pro, is incredible.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just use them all for now. But DeepSeek is also really good. My only issue with DeepSeek is you gotta find a place to run it, a place that you can trust, and also for us, we use Venice AI, and just the token limit is, I think, smaller than the model can actually handle on Venice. So you can't give it a whole lot of code.
Yeah.
But in a year or two, all that is literally like we're finding these models are just getting smarter and being able to accept more data, and that's going to be pretty awesome.
Do you think we're on that same trajectory now with OpenAI shrinking a little bit in market share, Anthropic growing, maybe one or two other dark horses come up and take over some market share?
Yeah, it's fascinating to me because I'm seeing this repeat in different industries again and again. If you look, 8 to 10 years ago, Flash, Macromedia Flash was king. Anytime you saw animations on the internet, any kind of user interaction, it was Flash, right? And then Adobe acquired them, and then Apple and Androids came out, and Apple didn't want to support Flash because it was a battery killer. And then HTML5, and Android was like, we'll still support Flash, but then they stopped supporting it too. And then HTML5 was able to do everything that Flash could do, and now Flash is dead, right? We can see the
Like those
same
old Flash games,
yeah.
in high school playing.
Yeah, so I feel like open source moved very slow, but even a billion-dollar company, it can't match hundreds of thousands of engineers, open source engineers, just doing it for fun, and passion. And so the problem is all that stuff is so spread around GitHub and Hugging Face and Reddit. We need someone to package it all up and make it easier for a non-coder. And
So you think one of the big things for onboarding retail to something like Sogni, like again, it goes to the login issue, and I think that on the operation side of things, the GPUs and the compute, that's a huge bottleneck. But on the UI UX side of things, the login is the other one. So like when I'm using it, I don't know how to code anything.
Yeah.
When I want to use an LLM and I have to log in, I might use a burner Gmail account, but Gmail still has all my data because now they won't let you make an account without a phone number in some cases, or any kind of email address. Whereas with Sogni, you have to put in just a username and a password, and then you verify that with an email, and that's pretty standard. Like that's just 2FA sort of stuff. But then once you have the login credentials, you then have this wallet. How does someone who's used to using OpenAI or used to using DeepSeek or Gemini, how are they going to get used to using a wallet? Like, what is this wallet for? I want to use my Sogni now. It's on testnet, but how do I do it? Oh, I have to claim tokens. Like on paper, it seems for people like us, I get it. You get it.
Yeah.
But what about John Deere down the road in Nebraska who just wants to make an image really fast, and a lot of them who now has to figure out how to use T-Sogni tokens to do that?
Yeah, exactly. And this is the problem that we wanted to address from day one. Every project and protocol claims we're going to bring the next 100 million users to blockchain. But I think the answer is to build Web 2 apps on Web 3 rails. A user should need to know how to use MetaMask or Rabi Wallet or Etherscan. Only when something goes wrong should a support engineer be able to debug that for you. So people, they don't know how like ERC20s work, but they know how airline miles work. Mm-hmm. And airline miles, they know that they need them to get earn points and earn discount fares or fully paid fares. So for us, the Sogni token represents just render credits, and actually, it's has been described as the ultimate utility token because it represents tokenized GPU time. Like one Sogni token on launch is worth one average render. The more complex the render, the bigger the size, the more Sogni. If you want to do like Telegram stickers, they're 512 by 512, so they're less than one Sogni to do, right? So we built our own wallet software because we couldn't find good software out there to generate, just from your username and password to generate the private key. And then we build all the tools in the app for you to be able to claim tokens and spend them. And then we added the fiat gateway where Apple in-app purchases, in the future Android, Stripe for credit card payments. And when you buy the render credits through the app, we literally just take your fiat and spot buy the token and put it into your wallet, without you knowing or needing to know how all that works.
So you're going to have Sogni token and it will be listed?
Exactly, yeah. So it's launching. Our goal is end of March. If the market is not good, then we can delay it some, but we really don't want to delay it anymore. But yeah, the goal,
keep the testnet up longer.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, exactly. And we're airdropping 1.5% of the supply. So we have this leaderboard, sogni.ai/leaderboard. And, whether you're an artist doing art renders, so it's not about hoarding the testnet tokens. You have to make art. You can enter our weekly design contest on Discord, discord.sogni.ai. Or you can be a GPU provider, whether it's with your Mac or NVIDIA machine, earn the tokens, and the higher you're on leaderboards, the more real Sogni tokens you're going to get in the airdrop. Or promo codes. Your username is your promo code, so you can share that around, and the higher you are, the more you're going to earn the airdrop as well.
How do I get an NFT?
So just go to nft.sogni.ai, and you don't even need to use MetaMask or anything. You can just log in with your Sogni username and password, and you can mint your NFT there.
Cool. It's just fun to play with image generators sometimes. Like you got like 30 minutes to kill and just toy around with any of them. It could be Sogni, it could be really anything. Just type in something in your brain. I want to see puffy clouds shaped like bows and arrows, and they're pointing towards Mars, and then Mars blows up, and like you make a webtoon out of it. It's just fun to do stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's what's fascinating to me. Like when we made the Eliza plugin, because that's interfacing with a large language model. Eliza can use Claude or ChatGPT or DeepSeek. Um, and when we made our Telegram and Discord sticker creators, whatever you tell those bots, they literally interface with the models to generate your images exactly what you say. But when you're talking to our Eliza agent, it's called Sloppy Corn on Telegram. The code is on GitHub if you want to release your own. That one you can like I can literally say, hey, can you draw a picture of me and my friends cracking a cold one while we're camping? Like it already knows a cold one means a beer, whereas the models wouldn't naturally know that. But since it's going through an LLM, generating the beautiful prompt and then sending it to the model, you can create so much different type of work. And I think that is the future of AI, where I could literally talk to a large language model for 5 minutes about the vision I have, maybe a dream, and for you to send that directly to the model, it's just one, too much text and too many details. Whereas sending that to a large language model first and distilling that into a final masterpiece,
Yeah.
that is different, right? So
There's a lot of training there. Even like you would have to train the colloquial terms that you're using. Like if I type in like make an image of Brian and Movis smoking fat stogies on some leather couch in a chill vibe, who knows what it would come up with for a prompt like that. But
Yeah.
what you're saying is Sagni's been trained in idiomatic language, and it's going to know essentially what you're talking, at least with the Eliza bot,
Yeah.
or Eliza integration.
Yeah, and we have the prompt enhancer as well.
I
By
love
the time you release this, it'll probably already be a button inside of the app. It's just like a little magic wand tool. So you can do your basic prompt and then hit the prompt enhancer to try to understand where the vision you're trying to go for and make a genuinely good image. So there's, stuff about that setting, the camera angle and all that stuff.
Mhm.
It'll try to do for you. And then the whole facets where you can not only say adjust on hair color or emotion or artistic style, but in the future, you'll be able to send that to literally 100 different models to get 100 different interpretations, which is going to be pretty cool. So it's all about increasing your creativity and your productivity at the same time.
Hey, you went into detail already about how Sagni's being trained, and you're actually using multiple models, and there's different LLMs that you use depending on which integrations people can choose. Like, what about just going through app.sogni.ai as opposed to using the Telegram bot or something like? Are there totally different LLMs that are plugging the prompt into the platform, or is it how does that work? I don't totally get it.
Yeah, so app.sogni is essentially Sogni Studio Web, and that's our like flagship product. There's actually two Mac apps. There's Sogni Studio, which is in the App Store that you can download, and then Sogni Studio Pro is only downloadable from our website, sogni.ai/download. That one has the token and everything. When you're downloading Sogni from the App Store or via iOS, Sogni Pocket or Sogni Studio, it's using Spark credits, and Spark credits are kind of like Sogni tokens, and but they're only able to be used for render. It's a lot of legal stuff with Apple App Store and stuff where you're not allowed to have tokens.
Mhm.
But when you're spending these Spark render points, you're literally just they get translated to Sogni tokens when the workers get paid and stuff. But in terms of large language models, DeepSeek has been the king in all of our testing. And so right now we're only using DeepSeek for prompt enhancer and for the facet stuff that's about to come out soon, just because we find that it is excelling in what we wanted to do in enhancing your prompts and stuff. We've in the early days we've tried Llama 3 and a bunch of other open source models, but they really weren't on the same level as what DeepSeek is offering. It really is a game changer, and the fact that it's open source, running on your own computer, you can turn the internet off and it works just fine. No one is taking your data, and so yeah, right now it's so funny because I was always against these ChatGPT wrappers that all these startups are doing because there's no moat there. But now that DeepSeek was released, it suddenly created validation for all these ChatGPT wrappers because you can literally replace ChatGPT with DeepSeek, and now it's your proprietary technology. There'll be better versions of DeepSeek or different versions, but the one that you downloaded, you're locked in the functionality that you want is in there. It's incredible time.
What did you think about the controversy with DeepSeek? It seemed the controversy around DeepSeek coincided perfectly with the revelation that it is comparably as powerful, regardless of how much it costs, because I think that we'll never get true transparency on that.
Yeah.
Which I guess is the crux of the controversy there. But the controversy with it started as soon as we found out that it is comparably powerful, in some cases overcoming ChatGPT in accuracy and in a number of other metrics. That timing all together, and then suddenly all this FUD came on. And actually on my site, that's right when I started the site. And I was trolling on people a little bit, like, DeepSeek is more powerful or comparably powerful with ChatGPT. The next day, I wrote a story about, you know what? We're probably going to see a lot of FUD on DeepSeek over the next couple of weeks. And sure enough, the very next day was FUD, not least of which from Venice. I don't know if you saw they launched their token. Venice launched the triple V token. At the same time, DeepSeek, the whole DeepSeek FUD was picking up steam. So Venice AI, their social media campaign about triple V token was about, or at least it incorporated in some parts, all the bad stuff that DeepSeek does with your data, and they tried to enhance and amplify their messaging about what Venice is because of that. But the fact of the matter is, DeepSeek is really powerful and it's very, very useful.
Yeah.
So how do you reconcile the FUD that people are trying to make about it? I think in many cases because it's Chinese, and the just objective strength of OpenAI, or rather of DeepSeek.
Yeah, there's a couple of things to unpack there. First is I'm less concerned of how the model was created, how many GPUs, big or small, that they use. I'm more interested in the final product and whether it does what it says. Even people are saying that it was actually largely trained on ChatGPT using a lot of credits. I'm not so concerned there. I'm just concerned about the performances as an open source project you can download and run with no internet connection. And for that, it does accomplish stuff. There is some mild, I wouldn't call it censorship, but issues where you can't talk about certain Chinese topics since it is a Chinese model. But I'm not,
Oh yeah, wouldn't let you make any comments about Taiwan and what happened at Tiananmen Square.
Yeah,
that was wild.
And so I don't think that it ever lies, but it just says stuff that it as much as possible is factual about the history stuff, and it'll never it'll say Taiwan is part of China. That's stuff that it tries to stay clear of. But that's not the type of stuff that I'm going to be querying about anyway. But I do think it's funny that open source, OpenAI, which has had a whole goal of being open, is moving to a closed source model, and the model that we say this, Chinese model is actually open source and more free than OpenAI.
Yeah.
And even Sam said this looks kind of bad for us that we are essentially converting to a private company, and this Chinese model is the one that's free and open.
Right, and that's a criticism that came to OpenAI. It was funny seeing OpenAI and Sam say they didn't say anything outright about DeepSeek, but Sam was talking about, we are closed source now.
Yeah.
It's a private company now, and then to combat that PR with DeepSeek being what it is now, we know about its power.
Yeah.
Then the PR battle began. I think it was a week later. OpenAI announced the release of Deep Research, which is the competitor with Google's Notebook. I don't know if you've played with Notebook at all. It's amazing, and if it's anything like what Deep Research is, I've been using Notebook. I don't have access to Deep Research. They won't even let me use it, even if I paid for it. It's amazing, dude.
Yeah.
You can feed it as many documents as possible. As if they're all within the same topic, it will condense all of the information and in a very readable and very human way provide a summary and a synopsis of everything and give you a rundown of, let's say you're trying to study a new company or something, you're doing DD on something you might invest in. You give it all the decks that you've been given, those documents, you give it the website, you give it the backgrounds on all the people, and it will put it everything together. You start having a conversation with it about what's the background of the founder, the main guy? Does he have any stains on his record? And it will know what you're really asking for. You can say, how is this project that I'm considering investing in different from its competitors? And do you think that it's better or worse? And then you can make inferences and or whatever insights you're going to glean from that information in very clear, very understandable ways. Like, I don't know if you've seen it. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, I do have a ChatGPT Pro account, and I have used Deep Research, a couple of times, and the results are pretty stunning. The way that it can, search the internet. I'll give you an example. My parents, I live in Singapore. I've been there for about 6+ years, and my parents, I have a 2-year-old, and they want to think they're Americans, and they're thinking about maybe moving to Singapore. So I said, first spend 3 months here, see if you like it. But as they're retirees, and there's a lot of considerations. My mom's Korean; she's looking for Korean churches. So I had, ChatGPT Deep Research create a 55-page document about the complexities and intricacies of moving to Singapore, finding community, dealing with healthcare, etc. And I made this report and sent it to my parents so they can print out with a highlighter and really go line by line. And it's incredible what humanity can do these days. There's even open source versions of deep research that you can use with a model like DeepSeek as well. But going back to the DeepSeek conversation, if you read their white paper about how they created DeepSeek, there is a couple of innovative stuff that they've done there, namely this mixture of experts model. So instead of when you query DeepSeek, it doesn't activate all of its weight and neural net to go to a topic. It has a number of mixture of experts in there that it'll activate to use less of the model to do its deeper thinking. And it's it's a pretty innovative approach in accomplishing this stuff. And I think it's interesting that Sam never he poo-pooed DeepSeek in terms of its technical capabilities, because it's for sure there.
Yeah.
He said it's a pretty good model, which it is. Excuse me.
So if you could sum up the current playing field of AI bots or AI agents or AI agentic frameworks, however you want to characterize it in Web3 now, and how you would characterize it, you think it will be in a year, how would you do that? Where are we at now, and where do you think we'll be on mid-February next year?
It's really interesting, the craze for AI agents. It's died down a lot since it started 2 months ago, and I truly do see its potential. In short, I am bearish on AI agents in the short term, but I am more bullish than everyone else on its long-term potentials. Before CoinMarketCap, I used to work at the Gates Foundation as a technology researcher and due diligence person, and it was an amazing job because they let me research for 8 hours a day nascent technologies like blockchains, AI, machine learning, AR, VR, and everything follows something called the Gartner hype cycle. This new tech comes out, whether it's VR or whether it's AI agents, and it reaches this peak of inflated expectations. It's going to solve all the world's problems. It ends up not being able to do that, and then it slowly crashes to the trough of disillusionment, and then eventually makes its way to true use cases to the plateau of productivity. And so I think we are heading toward the trough of disillusionment for AI agents. The primary issue with AI agents is their limited active memory when you can do a query. So our team had to really take apart ELIZA to truly understand it, to build a plugin for it. And what we realized is when you talk to this model and like Sloppycorn, our agent, and you said, "Oh, how are you doing?" And it says, "Oh, how are you?" And you say, "I'm eating pizza." "Oh, you had pizza last Thursday. That's cool. Is it pepperoni also?" And you're like, "This is so cool. This model really knows me. It knows every conversation." But the reality is, it doesn't. ELIZA has a vector database that it stores every conversation. And when you mention the word pizza, it searches this vector database for every other instance that you mentioned pizza in its previous conversations, and then it sends as much relevant text to the model, whether it's DeepSeek or ChatGPT, to create its answer to you. But the reality is it doesn't holistically know you and know this whole, mile-long conversation that you've
That's the
had.
thing I think people don't get. AI agents don't know you.
Yeah.
They don't know anything about you.
Yeah.
It's just data to them. It's ones and zeros put together in a relevant way.
Yeah, and it's not able to truly glean every conversation you had that's related to you enjoying pizza or any other event. It's just picking pretty much, even when if it picks up 20 cases where you mention pizza, it'll pick randomly 3 of those and include that in the conversation response that it's going to send to the large language model, right? Its goal is to pretend to be aware of you and all that stuff, not that it actually knows this stuff. Same thing with these AI agents like AIXBTC. You ask for, what are the thoughts on Bitcoin or Solana going down. It's also going to arbitrarily pick random data points and try to make as intelligent response as possible. And so in that case, it's not that smart. But as time passes, Sam and others have mentioned there seems to be no limit to throwing more data and building bigger and bigger large language models. There seems to be no limit on how much smarter we can make them. It's like a linear thing. Unfortunately, it's not like exponential, but it's a linear thing. But once we finally hit the wall there, that's when we're going to start diving into Mixture of Experts and other ways that we can squeeze more value out of these things. But that's why in the span of 2 or 4 years, these things are going to get more exponential or linear in terms of how much more data that they're going to be able to take into one query, and they're going to be able to create a lot smarter and useful responses for us. So in the long run, I am hyper bullish on this stuff. Short term, it's kind of like smoke and mirrors style, still useful, but not as useful as we would think. But long term, it's going to be incredible. And my hope is that deep-in narrative is going to prove itself, and we'll be able to run these. You can think of large language models as engines. They need data snapshots to send to them that they can reply with. And the answer is whether it's going to be locked away in private systems like OpenAI, or it's going to be decentralized on deep-in networks where it's all encrypted in little bits and only you as the key holder have access to your own data. No one else is going to be mining it. So that's my hope for the future.
Well, Movis, I appreciate you coming by and enjoying these cigars with me and some whiskey. Best of luck to you on Sogni. I guess you'll have a new button up by the time I release this podcast. And we'll stay in touch. We'll have to do some partnerships for Sogni images.
Sounds good. My pleasure, Brian. Thanks for having me.